Parrish, and I own my own consulting business, Healthly. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm the only dietitian in Middle Tennessee that has a board specialty in sports. I work with individuals who are practicing to be their healthiest. I think that sometimes people feel they're not an athlete, and even though I work with pro athletes 2/3 of the week, I work with individuals just like yourself as well that are trying to pull their nutrition and fitness, their exercise together to be healthy. So this month we're going to roll right into our topic, and that is eating for energy. You guys may not be aware, or you may, if you're like most people, that the number one complaint of people when they go see their doctor is a lack of energy. This is especially true if you're a female, if you're overweight, and if you're middle-aged. Now, probably all those go together. It's probably because you're exhausted because you're working harder than everybody else, and there's lots of other reasons. But today we're going to really look at what are the reasons, what are some of the causes and symptoms of fatigue, and we're going to specifically focus on how nutrition and exercise can help you combat fatigue. So hopefully most of us right now are coming off of our holiday break. We're well rested and maybe motivated, extra motivated since it's the beginning of the year. But sure enough, there'll be a time, it may be next fall, when things seem to always be hectic for most people. But whenever it is, there's going to be some time that you're feeling more fatigued. So I did give you a little energy quiz. You're welcome to take that ahead of time, or you're welcome to answer the questions as we go through the presentation. Of course, all the answers to the quiz will be in the presentation if you paid close attention. So first, let's look at the foundations to fight fatigue. So really, when we're looking at what makes you feel tired and sluggish all the time, the first foundation is adequate sleep. Then we start to look and make sure, do you have a healthy body? Is there something else wrong? And then finally, we start to look at your nutrition and your exercise. So we're going to look at each of those areas. We're going to take the most in-depth look at nutrition, but we're going to hit on each of those areas, beginning with sleep, since it is the primary foundation. So all the time, I have people come to me and they say, you know, I just have that afternoon slump. It seems that 2 or 3 o'clock that I'm just nodding off. I've got to have a coffee then, right? And the first question I ask is, well, how much sleep do you get at night? Well, I think I get plenty. I get about 6 hours. I hear that all the time. And I say, well, then that's not enough. Well, it's enough for me. It's how much I've gotten my whole life. I think I do just fine, you know, or I get 4 hours. I hear that. I've heard that too. You know, we all like to think we're special, and we are in our own way, but most of us do fall into what science or research says, which is that all of us do best if we get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If you take the challenge and you really try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you will likely find, if you are having that afternoon slump before, it will go away. Now, when we get to nutrition, you'll see there's other things that can affect that slump, like what you're having at lunch. But the first thing you always want to look at is how much sleep are you getting? Are you getting 7 to 9 hours? Now, everybody has excuses, you know, to put it bluntly, or what they feel are legitimate reasons for not getting enough sleep. You know, they say, well, you just don't know the demands I have. You just don't know how much I'm balancing. I'm working 3 jobs and going to school and have 5 kids, you know. Yeah, that all sounds very legitimate, and maybe it is a season in your life that you're going through, and that would be understandable, but you have to honestly assess, could you rearrange your schedule to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and would it make you a better whatever student, parent, employee? And the answer is probably yes. My cousin always says that sleep, she calls it a spiritual discipline, because she found that she can't quite be the person she should be when she doesn't get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And I'd say that's probably true for most of us. It's just that so many of us aren't aware of how much sleep impacts every area of our life. If you get less than 7 hours of sleep, it raises your risk for hypertension, for diabetes, for cardiovascular disease, and for obesity. So one of the questions whenever I meet with a client that's on their intake form, if they fill out their pre-paperwork before they meet with me, is always about sleep. because it's going to be very difficult for me to work with you on weight, if that's what you want to work on, if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Why does it raise your risk for obesity? Because when you get less than 7 hours of sleep, hormone levels are affected, particularly two levels that we see, ghrelin and leptin. So ghrelin's a hormone level, it's a funny name, but the way you can remember that is it's grr, like your stomach's hungry, okay? So that level is raised whenever you don't get enough sleep. Leptin is the hormone level that tells you that you're full and satisfied and not hungry. That level is lowered when you get less than 7 hours of sleep. So, on average, on a day following a night that you got less than 7 hours of sleep, you eat 30% more calories. Even if you follow your normal routine, you get up, go to the gym, whatever your routine is, you think that you're just doing things normal. And you may be, but your appetite is not what it normally is. And you usually make corrections, and it's because you didn't get adequate sleep. So sleep has a major role on our health, overall health in our life. I mean, we could do a whole, I hope for one of your wellness events you do have one on sleep, because it's very, very important. It's a great topic. We could talk all day about it. But let's just talk briefly about how we can, now we know why we need to get that 7 to 9 hours, let's spend a little bit of time talking about what we need to do to prioritize it. So first thing you need to do is figure out when you have to go to bed. Now, there is a great app you can get on your phone called Sleepy Time, and it's Sleepy with an I, Sleepy Time. And it kind of goes into the science that you have 90-minute sleep cycles. So if you go in and either put when you're going to wake, you have to wake up, or what time you want to go to bed, it will tell you approximately how long you're supposed to be in bed to get the ideal sleep. And it's kind of a fun little app. But you need to decide when you're going to have to get up. If you have to get up at 5 in the morning, you need to count back and say that means I need to be ideally asleep by 9 if I can be. That may mean that by 8 or 8:30 that I'm turning off the TV, I'm turning off my Facebook or my computer, I'm putting my phone aside. That's a really hard one. I think all of us think we have to be right by that phone because of emergencies. You can set your phone on settings that it will come through only as an emergency, and that may be something you need to do. So with technology, which is so wonderful and we're all connected, we're seeing that a lot more people are having interrupted sleep. So technology, be it your phone, your tablet, your iBook, whatever it is that you might have with a backlight, needs to be turned off about an hour before bedtime. Then you need to make sure that your room environment's a quiet, comfortable place that's cool, ideally. An extra advantage of a cool room, a research study came out last month saying that if you sleep with it cooler, at least below 68 degrees, which is not an issue this time of year, that you can burn on average 200 more calories at night. So that was kind of a fun little study. So a cool room, it has many benefits, but especially for sleep. And then the most important part of making sure that you're well rested, that I think sometimes people overlook, are the regular sleep-wake patterns. So sometimes when I talk with people, they think, oh, well, I'll just sleep on the weekend and sleep in. And that kind of makes them messed up. They kind of feel tired or more strung out. It's good that even on the weekend that you don't greatly change your sleep-wake patterns. Maybe you normally go to bed at 9 and get up at 5. Maybe on the weekend you go to bed at 10 and get up at 6. That's okay. That's not a big difference. It's when you get into really big differences, like on the weekend you stay up and watch TV and drink and you're up till midnight, and then you sleep in till 9 or 10. That's where it's really going to interrupt how well rested you are. So regular sleep-wake patterns are extremely important. And then, of course, exercise. That doesn't seem to bother some people, but if you know that your quality of sleep is not good, maybe you fall asleep, but you keep waking up during the night, maybe what you're eating or your amount of activity is, or alcohol does that too. You may fall asleep and you think, oh, good, a good nightcap helps me sleep, but it interrupts your quality of sleep. So eating, drinking, or exercise, you may be able to fall asleep, but it may wake you up. You may interrupt your quality of sleep. You might not get that good, deep sleep. So definitely want to be aware of what you're eating or drinking, how close to bedtime, if you're not getting quality sleep. Limiting caffeine after noon. The half-life of caffeine is 6 hours. Again, you may say, oh, I can drink a cup of coffee, my tolerance is so high, and go right to sleep. Yes, maybe, but it is still working on your brain chemicals and it is still affecting your quality of sleep. So ideally, after noon or 2, depending on when you go to bed that night, that's a good time just to cut out the caffeine. All right. So as far as sleep goes, I addressed it first because it is the very most important foundation for making sure you have adequate energy. Let's move on to exercise. Now, you've all heard those exercise freaks, and I think we have a few of those in the fire department that I know of, that say, oh, I just love to exercise. It just gives me so much energy. I feel so good. And you think, oh, barf, that's right. Sure. But the fact of the matter is they're not lying. It does. So research shows that if you get as little as 20 minutes 3 times a week, and it can be walking, a lot of the research was done just riding a stationary bike. It doesn't have to be getting your heart rate to a certain level. It's just moving. At least 20 minutes 3 times a week that you report less fatigue and better sleep. You go to sleep better. So exercising actually does make you feel more energetic. It does impact how well you feel. And I think you know that. I think when you're tired already, exercise is the last thing you want to do. But you may just find if you make yourself do something, it doesn't have to be an enormous effort, that you'll actually feel better as a result. I find that when I sit at the office, if I have a big office day where I'm at the computer and you can't keep my eyes open, and of course you want to go get something to eat, to help yourself out or to drink, that instead, if I'll take a walk around the block or whatever, take a nice walk, do something that kind of gets me moving, then I come back and all of a sudden I'm alert and able to focus again. So a lot of times reaching for that exercise is the answer when you're having a time that you're feeling more down, and that's really helpful. Stress management is up there because stress is a major interrupter of people's energy level. If you are depressed or having a lot of anxiety, or if you have a big project coming up that you're really nervous about, you're certainly going to be more apt to feel, oh, I'm exhausted, right? And it may be mental, but it translates into physical as well. So using exercise to help deal with your stress management is also probably a less direct way, but also a way that it's going to help give you more energy. And then finally, you see that endorphin surge, and that again is where you see all those crazy people that are like, I just love to run, I get this runner's high. It is true, they're not just making it up. You do actually get a little bit of a high. Not only do you feel good about yourself, like I did something after you maybe left the gym or did your exercise class, it has a chemical effect on your brain as well, that says, that was a good thing. In fact, it's the same effect that you get if you eat something sweet like a dessert, or if you do something else that causes pleasure. Okay, so it's the same effect. So this is a very healthy way that you can get that perk, and the more you do it, the more it reinforces that you want to do it. Your body says, yes, I want to exercise. So again, if you will discipline yourself to do it, even though you may not feel like it, in the long run, your body's going to learn, even chemically in your brain, that it wants to do it because it's pleasurable and it likes it and it makes it feel better. But there is an adjustment period. Those first few weeks don't feel fantastic always. So exercise needs to be a foundation if you're really working on trying to increase your energy. Let's move on to health and talk a little bit about good health. Now, if you are struggling with a disease, whether that be cancer or one that you may not think about that really zaps your energy, is arthritis. That's a big one that research shows really zaps your energy. Or asthma, emphysema, uncontrolled diabetes, heart disease, anything like that, it's going to affect your energy. That's one of the number one complaints of pretty much any disease, is it's going to affect your energy. So if we can be preventative, which is what this program is all about, and keep ourselves healthy and avoid disease, that's one of the very important things we can do to make sure our energy level is where it needs to be. I think I talked about depression and stress briefly, so let's jump down to weight. Carrying excess weight on your body is a major cause of fatigue. People that are overweight report fatigue significantly more often. And when we say significantly more often, we're talking about 80% more often than somebody that's normal weight. So that's significant. So weight, excess weight, you may not realize is contributing to your fatigue, but it is. It's not just that your body's having to carry around that extra load, although that's part of it. It makes it, you don't realize it, but it's harder for you to do everything from getting in and out of your car to tying your shoe. But it's also because of the way that it affects your hormones. So in your body fat, in your body, is where a lot of your hormone levels are stored.